I wanted to like kind of make it light, but it's still gonna wind up being deep. Because I wanted to address this because I think you would have a very interesting take on it, and we haven't even discussed it. I have just an outlook about what in actuality is white privilege. Because the reference that I'm using right now is Courtside Karen. Everybody kind of knows where she came from. Talking mad, Google guy to
it's the
brother,
LeBron,
the LeBron James,
deal, right?
yeah, the LeBron James, and so and she went on social media to try to defend her position, talking about she's taking up for her old man, her husband. She's 25. Her husband is 62. Literally. So we know who got the courtside seats to the Hawks game.
Right.
And so it's but it made me think about it because I was like, okay, is this just a case of just pure unadulterated white privilege, or is it a case of rich white privilege, or is it just of rich white woman privilege? Or, it's like there's so many things that you can kind of just throw it out there and make it. And for some reason, I just don't want to really make it white privilege because LeBron, the way it started was that her husband was heckling LeBron.
Okay.
And so it got to that point where he kind of crossed that line and LeBron mouthed back at him. And so, apparently this white woman said that, you can tell he's like, man, leave me alone. Go ahead on that, that bullshit.
So they stopped the game to deal with that.
But
they didn't get put out at that point.
Not at that point.
Okay.
They got put out because then she started cursing at him. Talking about I'm gonna whip your ass and just being. I was like, you kind of bold for a white woman who ain't nothing but 110 pounds soaking wet. Right. That type of thing. But apparently, of course, the first thing that comes out of her mouth when she goes to social media is she was like, LeBron called me a stupid bitch or something like that. And so I'm and I'm defending my man. And this, that, and the other. I'm like, and I'm, first of all, I'm thinking to myself, how are you a 25-year-old white woman trying to defend a 62-year-old white man?
Right.
I don't care. I don't care if y'all husband and wife, father and daughter.
Yeah, the roles seem reversed immediately from that point.
Really from that. So, which, like I said, which begs the question for me to just throw out there, are we experiencing a time frame where that we are literally beyond just white privilege? Because, I think as Black Americans, we've been able to kind of help people identify what it is. And, so now I just think that it just really comes to those, people who just believe they're elite. The elitism.
It's like she was trying to protect her bag at the end of the day. That's all.
And I have no problem with that. But
right.
But at some point, it's kind of like, okay, but is there a privilege that goes in with that? Because you're still, fussing and cussing.
Right.
The pretty much who's probably gonna go down in history as the greatest athlete,
right?
Of all time.
Well, I think to hone in on what seems to be the primary question that you're asking is it white privilege, and what is white privilege, and what extent of white privilege that is.
Right.
I think from my perspective, first I'd be remiss if I didn't say that many people might not know, but I'm a certified diversity specialist.
Right, yeah.
Right. So I worked at the University of Alabama as assistant director for diversity programming, both on and off campus, for 6 years. I have probably every certification that comes into play as it relates to diversity and all that type of stuff. So I just want to say that before I open my mouth.
Right.
So,
That's all right. That's all right.
I want to say that.
Toot your horn, man.
I want to say it, not to toot the horn, but I want to say it so that there's a difference between working within those spaces in whatever those levels of certifications mean in the reality of your question, which is white privilege, right? So I would counter with a question saying, have you ever walked down in the French Quarter, down the sidewalk, Canal Street, or in a mall, and saw a 1-2 in our group of white folk walking towards you on the same sidewalk?
Nah, not really.
You ain't never walked through the French Quarter and had white folk walking towards you.
Well, I mean, of course, but
And what happens as you get closer?
They would move. Yeah, they
cross
would
the
move.
street.
Or me being cognizant of there's a bunch of white folks and I might be by myself or I might just be with somebody else, and we are going to be perceived suspicious
A certain way. So you
a certain way.
So let me I should backtrack that because that's a social connotation. So let's say you're on a university campus, right? Let's say Tulane, a space where I worked, and let's say University of Alabama. So if you're a black individual walking down the sidewalk and there's 1, 2, 3 or more individuals walking towards you that are white, they will walk over you.
Yeah.
They will expect you to move out the way, right?
Yeah, of course.
Why? White privilege.
Right.
Let's hone in straight on your question, this young lady, right? I would say that, yes, it's hyper white privilege. And if you were asking exactly like, what is white privilege? White privilege is this expectation that that those individuals can do, say anything that they choose to do or say in any space to anyone, and that there is no repercussion for that.
Right.
So we can use whether it's LeBron's game, whether it's LeBron, or whether it's the Capitol from January 6th.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're fighting for our country. So we're going to go into this building and tear the Capitol up. And there's nobody that can do anything because we're patriots.
Right.
Right.
We're patriots. We're Americans.
Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But like many people have said immediately when that happened, honestly, what if that would have been 500 black and brown folk?
We would have been dead.
It would have looked like Christmas Adams. We would have been slaughtered.
Well, I mean that with what you're saying, that it almost was that way, because when Black Lives Matter had their same march months beforehand, the National Guard was there guarding the Capitol building, guarding the White House, guarding all those things, and it's like, all right, we ready for you.
Well, not even that. I mean, right now in Texas, people are freezing, people are homeless, people are dying in the cold. Right now, and the National Guard was deployed to protect trash bins at supermarkets that have thrown out food that has expired.
Right.
You have people who are literally starving, have not had electricity for 4 or 5 days.
Right.
The National Guard was deployed to protect the trash.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because where are those supermarkets? They're in black and brown communities.
Right. I mean, you were right. You were correct about that.
So I would say, in her age, with the thing of being 25,
which is, I think, which is
they. So what I'm trying to say is like the millennials, and the youngest, they have a hyper white privilege.
Right.
It's worse than when we were.
Right. The problem with them is they're very opinionated. They're super opinionated without the information.
Exactly.
Like I have little cousins. We'll talk about something. I'm 35. Me and my cousins in our 30s will have a conversation, and she'll hop into me. I feel like this, that, and the third. Like, hold up, you didn't live life long enough to know what the fuck you know what we talking about.
The weirdest thing with that is, like, again, going back to when I was at UA, I taught a class for the Honors College called Culture and Human Experience, right? So these are students who, firstly, they're honor students, and they're going to eventually, at some point throughout their matriculation, they're going to eventually travel internationally. So they're taking this class because we're talking about, the roles and responsibilities of being culturally sensitive, that type of thing, right? And again, even at Tulane, working at Tulane is in the Center of Social Innovation. But the thing that would get me, I'm a grown-ass man, PhD, highly experienced, and as you just mentioned, no matter what the topic is, it's I think.
Right.
I think.
Right.
Or I feel. Every sentence is started with I think or I feel.
Right.
Which means that what I am saying in front of you as the authoritative figure actually doesn't matter.
Right.
Because whatever Twitter feed you have read, whatever 120 characters, which is their information base at this point, whatever 120 characters you have recently read that gave you some insight, now suddenly your opinion is worth an encyclopedia worth of knowledge.
Right.
So everything I'm saying is just a wash.
No, it is. It's like they took subjective information and turned it into facts.
Yeah.
And he feels though this is my subjective information. This is facts. It's like no, it's not facts. You sound stupid.
And you're not even trying to hone in on the facts,
Right.
Because you feel that you're factual already,
Right.
So nothing else matters,
Right.
So with her being 25, that's that hyper
Yeah.
white privilege.
And her emotion, you can tell her emotions involved with it.
And then if he's 62 or however old, with I saw the way that he was dressed. They showed a picture of him. So if he's 62 or whatever, and she's 25, there's also like this economic privilege going on. Also,
Right.
Of course.
he got some bank from whatever he do.
And that's why I think that's what that hones in on. I don't think as much as white privilege. I think it was just the white wealthy woman's privilege, which kind of actually like in the instant brought me back to reading $40 Million Slave. And so it was just kind of like, because you've paid all of this money for these seats right here,
Right.
at that type of thing, you felt like that you have the carte blanche to tell somebody anything with absolutely no repercussions whatsoever because you paid for those seats.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, no, you're talking to an individual, you're talking shit to an individual who is already set up. He's going to be a billionaire. He's going to be a certified billionaire really soon.
But that doesn't matter to them because she wasn't talking to a billionaire.
Right.
She was talking to a black
The
dude.
black
Right.
dude on a basketball court.
His legacy or nothing else mattered.
On an
At
opposing
that-
team.
At that moment, it was a black man.
Right.
But no, what's funny to me, I think about how what that was Ron Artest back years ago when he went to crowd. I be saying to myself like, bro, they wouldn't be trying.
You
this
haven't,
years
yeah,
ago.
you haven't seen it unless
You haven't
you see the,
seen it.
yeah,
See this stuff.
Malice in
like
the
this.
Palace.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just it was one of those things that for me it's just kind of still kind of a lightheaded sort of issue because we know what it is, but I just thought it was interesting because not in this day and age we can literally like show a case every time about what this is, and for some reason some people just don't get it.